welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Haley. I post weekly book videos and a bunch of other fun stuff, so be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Today I'm going to be sharing all of the books that I read throughout July and what I thought about them. In July, I ended up reading 12 books and I discovered so many new favorites, so I'm excited to tell you guys all about them. By the way, you guys, before I hop into today's video, I wanted to let you know that I am currently doing a giveaway with Second Sale on my last YouTube video. I'm gonna link it down below. It is my 24-hour reading challenge. In that video, Second Sale and I are giving away a gift card to hook you guys up with some books, so be sure to check it out. Anyways, getting into July's reads, I'm actually going to start off with my favorite books that I read last month. This will come as a surprise to absolutely no one, but all three of my top favorite books for the month of July are rom-coms. And two of them are written by Lynn Painter, who I absolutely adore and I have become obsessed with. So I am going to start off with Better Than the Movies. This book is the rom-com of all rom-coms and it has forever changed my life. I think this is my new favorite book of all time. As you know, I'm a huge fan of rom-com books, but also, of course, a huge fan of rom-com movies. This book has references to all of your favorite classics. At the beginning of each chapter, there is a quote from each movie. So just flipping to a random chapter, this one is from 500 Days of Summer. Just because she likes the same bizarro crap you do doesn't mean she's your soulmate. And so I love that it has touches of all of our favorites in here. The main character of this book is also obsessed with rom-coms. She's constantly watching them and romanticizing them and just like thinking that her life is going to pan out as a rom-com, hence the title, Better Than the Movies. This hits all of your favorite classic tropes, from fake dating, enemies to lovers, the boy next door. This book just put the biggest smile on my face. I read it in a single afternoon. It is such a sweet, cute read. I just fell in love with this book. I feel like it's one that I already want to reread and go through. I did end up annotating this one, and I kind of want to go back and like add more because I've been thinking about it recently. Just way too cute. If rom-coms are your thing, you need this yesterday. My other Lynn Painter pick, I've talked your guys' ear off about this past month, but as soon as I read it, I was like, I'm obsessed. So this is Mr. Wrong Number, and although the last book was also Lynn Painter, that one's a little bit more YA, it's a little bit more clean. This one has some spicy scene stuff in here. One thing I really love about Lynn Painter's characters is there's just so much to them. They're almost cartoonish in the exaggerations, to the point that while you're reading it, you're like, yeah, this would be the perfect movie. This is another enemies to lovers, brother's best friend sort of thing. I thought this book was utterly hilarious. The next standout book for the month of July is by Catherine Center. This is The Bodyguard, and this actually came in my book of the month. After reading this and falling in love with this story, it's so cute. I ended up following Catherine Center on Instagram, and she is the cutest, sweetest thing ever. This book does take place in Texas, specifically Houston, which I'm not super familiar with. I'm in Austin, if you guys didn't know. But there's so many cute little Texas references in here where you can perfectly put yourself in the place. There's like a mention of Fredericksburg peaches. It's sweet. So anyways, this book is another hilarious rom-com. This one was very funny. And this one hits on the classic fake dating trope, which I adore. So in this book, the main character is a bodyguard. She does a little bit more than bodyguarding. Essentially, that's what she is. She ends up getting hired for this super famous man, and to not alarm the famous guy's family and people around him, they end up pretending to date so people aren't put off by this obvious bodyguard. And as fake dating always does, they do end up together at the end, and this story is just so cute. This is like the perfect summer read. It just made me so happy the entire time, and I highly recommend. So these three were all 5 stars for me and are added to my favorite books of all time list. And as always, throughout this month, the main genres that I have are thrillers and romance. But I do want to talk about this thriller next because I think this one was pretty close to a 5-star for me. I did end up giving it a 4-star on Goodreads, which, by the way, follow me on Goodreads. I will have it linked down below so you guys can check it out. So this book is The Last House Guest by Miranda. This is a murder mystery thriller novel, and I loved this book, you guys. It's one of those like small town, rich family that everybody knows. There's no way to like keep secrets in this town. Everyone knows each other. The rich family's daughter is found dead, and it's actually ruled a suicide, but her best friend is like, no, this doesn't add up. So the whole book, you're just kind of going through the past, then you're back into the present, while the main character Avery is trying to figure out who murdered her best friend. I always love a good murder mystery, and this one kept me on my toes. I did not expect the plot twist ending at all, and I really liked the writing of this book. It was heavy on like the setting descriptions, which sometimes I don't love. It depends how it's executed, but in this one I thought that it was really well written. I definitely recommend checking this one out as well. The next book that I have is November 9th by Colleen Hoover. And this one, it had so many mixed reviews that I had no idea what to expect going in with this one. At first, I kind of enjoyed the premise. The two main characters meet in a very bizarre way when one of them is literally moving across country the next day. But they have some sort of instant connection, and I'm not usually about insta love. This one is definitely insta love. But over the next, I think it's like 4 or 5 years, 6 maybe, they end up meeting every year on the same day for one day only. That idea I really liked, but again, the execution in this book, I don't know. Usually I am a really big fan of Colleen Hoover books, but this one is not my favorite. I heard a lot of complaints about how it's like pretty cheesy, and although it is written a little corny, that wasn't my main gripe with this book. I feel like there's a lot of problematic things in here. When I started looking into it to see if anyone else was talking about those things, I found out that apparently this book was edited and republished to pull out problematic pieces. But what's left over in the copy I have, I was like, how did this stay? So the male main character, Ben, in this book, he comes across just a little too pervy for me. He is constantly commenting on the woman's body, her breasts and her butt, and there's like a lot of there's like non-consensual undressing of her and touching her, and at one point he like puts his hand over her mouth so that she can't talk, and it just felt a little like over the line for me. It made me a little uncomfortable to read. Here's one of the quotes that I wrote down in my notes so that I could bring this up, but it's important to know that the main character of this book has a lot of burns on her body from a tragic accident, and so she's definitely insecure about the way that she looks, and that plays a huge part in the way that she dresses. So the main character, Ben, is trying to get her to wear this sexy dress out, and she says, I shove the dress back at him. I don't want to wear that. I want to wear this. No, he says, I'm paying for dinner, so I get to choose what I stare at while I eat. No sir, I don't think that's how it works. There was a lot of weird lines in this book that I really didn't love, honestly. I am kind of in between 2 and 3 stars on this book. I am leaning a little bit towards 2 just because of the plot twist ending. It made me really angry. This was not a favorite of mine. And since we're talking about books that were not a favorite of mine, this is Things We Got Over by Lucy Score, and I did do a read with me video on this book. So in that video, I'm just vlogging while I read this book and updating and sharing my thoughts throughout. So if you want a little bit more in depth of why I feel the way I feel about this book, go check that one out. But basically, I didn't feel like there was much happening in this book for 550 plus pages. One of the main parts of this book is that there is an evil twin sister, and we do not find the twin sister, track down the twin sister until after page 500. And when we do, it is the most lackluster, anticlimactic scene of all time. I think my biggest beef with this book is the male main character, Knox, is just so aggressive and gruff. It's to the point where it's like, you're not like this hot tough guy, like you're like a scary man. Unfortunately, this one did not do it for me. I know you guys have been wanting me to read this one for months, but I don't know, I couldn't get into it. Next up, I have One of Us Is Next by Karen M. McManus, and this is the sequel to One of Us Is Lying. I loved One of Us Is Lying. It's very reminiscent to Pretty Little Liars, and this one was just the same. This one is actually the next generation, so there's still ties to the main characters of the previous book. Some are related, some are just like linked in other ways, so I did enjoy that because you do get an update on the past main characters. But I really enjoyed the storyline of this one, and I definitely did not see the plot twist at the end of this one. I know there's one more, it's the Two Can Keep a Secret, so I'm definitely going to check that one out too because I really enjoyed this series. The next book I have is by Lucy Foley. This is The Hunting Party. In one of my previous wrap-up videos, I can't remember if it was May or June, but I had read The Guest List by Lucy Foley. These books are nearly identical, so if you enjoyed this one, you would like this one. However, I found both of them just to be a little meh. I will say out of the two, I think that I prefer The Guest List. I think I like the characters of this story more. And don't get me wrong, I don't hate either one of these books. I think they're fine. They're just not some of my favorites. So each chapter is written from a different point of view of different characters throughout the group. Like I said, I really did prefer the characters in The Guest List. These, I wasn't really rooting for anyone. This one had another unexpected ending. I did not guess even close to who it ended up being, so for that, I gave it 3 stars. Next up, I finally got around to reading Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reed, and I didn't really go in with much expectation because I vaguely knew what it was about from the description, of course, but totally not what I anticipated with this book. It's definitely like a quick, easy read. There are like some race things that they bring up that I think it's really important to discuss. However, didn't really know what was going on in this book. It focuses on 2 main characters. One is the babysitter Amira, and the other woman is the woman that hired Amira as her babysitter. I liked reading about Amira, but the way that she was written was just like, there wasn't much going on. In any conversation she's having with the woman that's hired her or with friends, she's like, yeah, okay. Everything's like very short. And the other lady, Alex, she's giving me big weirdo vibes. I don't really know what that lady's deal was. She was just strange, not a really good parent, not a caring parent. I wish that they just expanded on that a little bit more. This is just another one of those books that are fine. I didn't love it, I didn't hate it. I wanted a little bit more with this one, honestly. So for that, I did end up giving this one 3 stars, but I thought it was interesting enough. What do you know? Another rom-com. This is The Honeymooners by Christina Lauren. This is another one that I have talked to you guys about all month long, so I'm sure you're sick of hearing about it, but this book is so funny. It's really cute. Another enemies to lovers, fake dating sort of trope. Christina Lauren is another author that I absolutely adore, and I just thought this book was really, really cute. You know, since we're on the enemies to lovers train, I did read The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. I'm just gonna tell you guys right off the bat that I was conflicted with this one, whether I should give it 3 stars, 4 stars, and ultimately I landed on 3 just because I didn't like Lucy. The book starts out fine. I didn't mind Lucy at all, but as they start to get into a relationship, start seeing each other, start talking to each other, she becomes kind of awful. Overly clingy, obsessed with how this man looks. She has to make everything super sexual. It's like this instant obsession when, like 2 days ago, she hated this man. Same with the guy too though. They just are, the whole time, they just want to bang each other. It's just like overly sexual and just completely overdone in my opinion, and I don't mind love scenes. I'm into it, I like it. This, I was just like, alright, enough guys. What else do you have here? I hate to say it, but this was just another one of those books from this month that I just was like, yeah, it was okay. I just wasn't personally drawn or felt any sort of connection to these characters, which is also how I felt with The Things We Never Get Over. It was a cute enough, quick read, but after reading some like amazing 5-star books this month, in comparison, it couldn't compare. And the last book that I read for the month of July it's kind of a funny story. I'm only like 20 million years late on this one. I remember it being so popular in middle school, and I don't know why I never read this book. Obviously, since this book was written so long ago, there are quite a bit of problematic things in here. There's some usage of like slurs and just like a lot of things in here that are just not acceptable anymore. Never really were, but you know, sign of the time sort of thing. Anyways, this book is all about mental health, mental illness, specifically depression and thoughts of suicide. So while it does touch on a lot of those heavy subjects, the way it's written is very funny and lighthearted. So it's not really like the biggest bummer to read. There's a lot of like comedic relief in here. In this book, the main character spends some time at a mental health facility, and I ended up reading on the very last page of this book that the author himself had also spent time in a similar facility, and then shortly, a few days later, started writing this book. This is one of the books that I read in my 24-hour reading challenge, so I do talk about this book a lot more in that video and give you updates throughout it. But I had ended up looking up the author, and I did see that he had lost his battle with his depression in 2013, so that was just really hard to read after reading this book and kind of getting a glimpse at his story and what he went through. So that was indeed a bummer. But I did enjoy this book. When I had shared that I was reading it on Instagram, I got so many messages about how this book had helped people through tough times, especially in their middle school and high school years. And I thought that was really cool, so I just wanted to share. And I know I said that was the last book that I read in July, and that is true, but I do have a DNF that I waited for last because I'm assuming not everyone stays until the end, and I know you guys are gonna want to fight me. In my July TBR, I told you guys I was going to read this month, I was going to persevere even though I could not for the life of me get into it, and you know what? I decided it wasn't worth it. If I'm over 100 pages into a book and I'm not feeling it, I don't want to waste my time. I have so many amazing books waiting to be read that I would rather spend time reading. This didn't do it for me. I'm so sorry. I know so many of you guys wanted me to read this. Everyone's like, wait, just wait, it gets so good at the end and then you can't put it down. Okay, I don't want to read hundreds of pages of bleh to get to like some sort of ending. It's not for me, and that's okay. The beginning parts of this book that I did read, I found boring. The heavy accent or dialect, the way that it's written, is so hard for me to read. Also just completely over the top. And with the last house guest, I had talked about how the writing was very descriptive on the setting. This book is the same, but this is an example of where it is done poorly and to an extreme. A lot of this book, it just felt like she was trying to meet a certain word count. She wasn't really saying anything at all. It was just a bunch of words. So I'm sorry to disappoint you guys, but I'm sure there are books that I've read and raved about where you guys were like, that was atrocious. So you know what? We're not all gonna like the same books, and that is a-okay. But that is my July reading wrap up. I had some really good ones in here, as well as some, not necessarily flops, but just some meh. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Let me know if we had any similar reads this past month, or if you had completely different opinions from me on some of these books, because I know that you guys will. But thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel to keep up with all my videos, and I will see you guys soon. Bye!